Welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawalker, your host. Today we are going to be covering Getz and Gilberto, a 1963 jazz samba record. This is a 1982 Japanese audiophile pressing. This record is pretty much single-handedly responsible for bringing jazz samba as a wave to the United States of America in the early 60s. After this album came out, you can find numerous records, and all of them are pretty much right after this record for the next few months, so the market essentially just got flooded with tons and tons of jazz samba records, pretty much single-handedly as a result of this record right here. We are going to be going over the full record today. My Portuguese isn't very good, so I'm going to do my best to pronounce these. First track on side 1 is The Girl from Ipanema. Track 2 is Doralice. Track 3 is Para Machucar Muy Carousel. I think that's right. Track 4 is Desafinado. Side 2 of the record has Corcovado, So Danço Samba, O Grande Amor, and Vivo Sorrindo. Like I said, my Portuguese is not good, so if you want to correct me, just leave it in the comments below on how I can fix that. But other than that, this album is legendary just in these jazz samba world, so I thought it would be a good album to cover. Let's get into it, and we'll see you on the flip side. Alright, we're back with side 1 of the record. First track on the album is The Girl from Ipanema. Slow pacing and a very laid-back sway and delivery to all of the instrumentals on this track just set the tone for the whole record. If you are looking for an album consistent in quality and tone, this is definitely the one for you. This track in particular is probably one of the most notable jazz samba tracks in existence, period. There are very, very few examples or parallels of this kind of track just based on notoriety alone. And the quality of the track really speaks for itself just on the first listen or the 100th listen. This is one of those tracks that you can just play over and over again, and it really doesn't age in a bad way at all. Every time is tasteful, every time is thoughtful. All of the instrumentation here is played out perfectly. The piano and the saxophone on this track in particular really play off of each other wonderfully, and they add an accent that just masterfully layers over the singing on this track as well. Track 2 on the record is Doralice or Doralice. Like I said, I don't understand Portuguese, nor do I speak it, so I'm gonna try my best on these. Immediately on this track, Joao Gilberto, might also be mispronouncing that, Joao Gilberto introduces the track with a smooth and just soothing vocal delivery. His guitar work really blends very perfectly with Stan Getz's saxophone delivery on this track as well. The saxophone ends up carrying this very lovely solo through the end of the track, and then is just slowly kind of phased out and sort of worked on and off with Joao at the end of the track. Track 3, Para Machucar Meu Coração. This is, in my opinion, probably the strongest track on the record. At least in my opinion, it is probably my favorite, so I'm a little biased there. With some of the most wonderful, like, low-key melodies that you'll hear on any jazz track, let alone a samba track. Everything in this song is really cozy in the strongest and warmest sense of the word. I do not understand a word of Portuguese, like I've been saying. But even still, the emotional delivery that is carried through the execution of these lyrics kind of transcends a language barrier, and you don't really need to speak a word or be able to understand a word of it to, like, get the message across. It's incredibly powerful in this track specifically. The track ends up finishing off once again with another finishing saxophone solo, which Stan Getz just releases masterfully. Once again, the solo itself is really just pure ear candy, and it bookends this track really, really well. Track 4 of the record is Desafinado. More slow guitar work with upright bass accents leads Joao's vocal delivery to another incredibly pleasant offering of music in the highest and really coziest sense. Similar to the last track, you really don't have to understand a single word to get the emotions conveyed here. Everything on this is just incredibly comfortable. And like I was saying before, you are probably not going to find another album in really any genre with more consistent themes, delivery, and quality. The 8 tracks that comprise this record are just masterclass in jazz and in just comfort music, really. It's like, this is something that you would listen to just to kind of kick back at the end of the day and say, all right, I'm home, like, let's get comfortable. So that is side 1 of the record. We're going to go over side 2, cover each track there, and we will come back to you on the flip side. Alright, we're back with side 2 of the record. Side 2 starts off with track 5, Corcovado. Female singer, I believe it is Joao's wife that was in The Girl from Ipanema, is reintroduced to lead off this track. The pacing here remains pretty consistent through the rest of the track, a pretty standard format we've seen on most of the album so far. Generally a slow vocal intro into saxophone solo, into the end of the track, and or vocal reintroduction into another saxophone solo, into end of track, or with some variation in the middle. However, at the end of this track we do get another little piano solo into a saxophone solo to finish off the track. Fits pretty perfectly, tone-wise, thematically, consistent. Track 6 is So Danzo Samba. As indicated in the title, this is generally the most pure samba track on the record compared to the rest of it, with being jazz samba. Of course, the jazziness is still here, but it's a lot more dancey in a way, with a slightly higher tempo, and the activeness of Stan Getz's saxophone soloing kind of increasing in volume and tempo as the track goes on. And it's, I would say, probably just the most upbeat song on the record while still remaining very, very chill. Track 7 on here is O Grande Amor. The most saxophone-focused track, I think, on the entire record. There is still some vocals on this track, but Stan Getz's saxophone soloing here is really, really in the limelight, and I think in some ways almost outshines the vocals, as sparse as they are on this track. I think the main focus here is just those saxophone solos, because there's just these nice, emotional, emotive saxophone parts that lead into these big buildups of release of tension and these loud deliveries of notes by that saxophone. And pretty much everything else on this track is outshined by just how well that saxophone is presented and how skillful the playing is. Track 8, last track on the record, is Vivo Sohando. Leaves the record off here with a bit more of a focus on the lyrics, just a little more compared to the last track, while still giving us some really great saxophone delivery. Thematically, the song remains consistent, and quality-wise, this is just another really top-notch offering. As far as final thoughts on this record, this entire album here, like I was saying, is single-handedly responsible for a movement of jazz samba through 1963 and 1964. You don't see a lot of it afterwards, because really this is the best one you're going to get. This style and this genre was beaten to death so quickly because of how popular this record was. And I don't think that there's really any other substitute for the Stan Getz, Joao Gilberto collaboration here on this record. Everything else, I mean, you're going to find some good jazz samba tracks in that genre, but everything else can take a backseat to this record alone, because this is just the toppest notch you're going to find anywhere in that genre. Anyway, how am I doing? What should I review next? Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment and tell me what you're thinking of the videos. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And yeah, thank you all so much for just sticking by. We'll see you on the flip side.